Jason, I'm vexed.
Are you?
I am vexed.
What vexes you, Jeff?
Okay, so you remember how we were saying that we want Nintendo to try something new and different and not just make the same game over and
We
over
said
again.
that. Those are things we said.
Okay, they have done it.
Yay!
With Dynasty Warriors.
Boo.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to Rage Slide, reviewing Hyrule Warriors. And yeah, okay, before we get started, what's your experience with Dynasty Warriors?
I've played bits and pieces of the franchise over the last 100 years or however long.
Have you ever like dug in and beat one of them or anything like that?
No, I have not.
Okay. Have you ever played one? Did you play any on the next gen consoles or just in the PS2 era?
I played a little bit. I only played them just like bits and pieces. I couldn't review any of them.
Okay.
So I didn't play them that much.
All right. Well, Dynasty Warriors. Oh my God. Okay.
I just know there's like a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And you got somebody with like a big weapon, and you run through those people and you kill them.
Yes, this is correct. All right. So for those of you who have never seen a Dynasty Warriors game before, this is the general formula for Dynasty Warriors. And Dynasty Warriors fans, I know I'm going to be leaving some shit out here. Just calm down. Basically, you have a character. The whole kind of conceit of the game is massacring huge numbers of enemies. Just like you have armies, straight up armies on this side, and they're going at each other, and your character is able to do these attacks that will just kill 70 guys at a time, right?
Yeah.
Just huge sweeping attacks that destroy an entire field. And the problem that I have with a lot of the Dynasty Warriors games is that the enemies that you're doing these attacks to don't really seem to have any real interest in hitting you. There's some of them that are higher level that will, but a lot of them will just waltz up to you and then stand there like, hey, do you want to hit me now?
Have your way with me.
I don't know. So basically, I'll go into more of the specific mechanics a little bit later, but basically, Nintendo has taken Zelda and they have mapped the Zelda universe, the Zelda franchise, on top of Dynasty Warriors, which is not altogether unheard of, because you've got Dynasty Warriors, you've got Samurai Warriors, you've got Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and as a bunch of people have pointed out to me, you've also got a Fist of the North Star style Dynasty Warriors and a One Piece style Dynasty Warriors.
That's a lot.
Now in Gundam,
I had no idea about any of those.
Yeah. Well, Fist of the North Star kind of makes a certain amount of sense with the way the dude does it. I don't really know anything about One Piece, so I can't speak to that. Now, I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Dynasty Warriors Gundam series because it makes sense, the franchise-wise, of a bunch of robots, and your super robot just blows them all up. But in Hyrule Warriors, it's something really interesting that we've never seen before, which is this large-scale army combat in the context of a Zelda game.
Sure.
And to give that a little bit of context, as near as I could tell, this particular Zelda universe is specific to this game, right? This isn't the Ocarina of Time. It's not Wind Waker. It's specific to this game, and you are okay. So the darkness is coming, and Zelda and Impa are worried about it, and they say, "Shit! All the moblins and shit are coming out. We got to find the hero of legend, right? Who's gonna wear the green hat." And they find him 5 minutes later. It turns out he's in the Royal Army, and he's just kicking a bunch of soldier asses. They're just like, oh, look, there he is. I like it because at the beginning they're just like, where will we ever find the warrior of legend? And it's just like, there he is.
Blonde kid, androgynous, pointy ears.
Yep.
There's the one.
So from there, it starts, and basically you have there's an evil sorceress, like you do, named Sia, who is summoning monsters into the world in order to try to kind of capture Link, because apparently she's into him, and the way that she is into him is that she brings monsters to try to murder him. I don't know. Bitches be crazy and stuff.
I like it when the bitch works for it.
So Zelda, Impa, and Link set out, and you start attacking. And then from there, you start gaining a bunch of different allies that come in. I think one of them is a brand new character in the series. And then some of the other ones are callbacks. I'll tell you right now that if you are a diehard fan of the Zelda franchise, I'm going to repeat this a couple times. This game gets you, bro. This is fan service callback central. The stuff that happens in here is for people who love and have played kind of almost all the Zelda games, or at least all the big Zelda games, right? You don't need to be a pro in Minish Cap in order to understand what the fuck is going on here. But from there, you basically set out with your party, and you go through a series of, I think it's like 12 to 14 story missions. I think there might be a little bit more than that all take place. They only repeat a couple of areas. I think they have like 3 areas that they duplicate, but for the most part, you've got these huge battlefields that all dynamically change as you're on them. And that's the most interesting part, or one of the most interesting parts of this game. Actually, everything in this game is goddamn top-notch, Jason.
Really?
The character design for Link and them are different. It separates them from the previous Zelda games, but it's close enough. Like,
still recognizable.
Yeah, like Link has, the green hat and stuff, but he's also got like pauldrons. He's got chainmail on under there, and you can see it. It's very well. On the Wii U, it looks fantastic. It looks like one of the better-looking previous generation games. Like, it doesn't look like a next-gen game, but it looks like top-notch previous generation games. The music is absolutely dynamite. They remix a whole bunch of the classic Zelda themes, especially the first level where you're on Hyrule Field and it's the traditional Zelda, the traditional theme, but it's got this kind of like weird Japanese metal component to it that works really well. There's no voice acting, but all of the writing, the story to it, I think is actually really good. Like, they introduce a few new things and they come at the franchise from a few directions I've never seen before. The only thing that really kind of falls down a little bit is the combat. And it's because...
Which is weird.
It's weird because it's Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
And, okay, I don't know the best way to say this. Like, so here's the thing about Dynasty Warriors that gets to me, is that for the most part, I think Gundam was the last one I played, and it played significantly different than this, but you've got 2 attack buttons in this game, right? Or you've got a few different attacks, but your main attacks are you've got a light attack and you've got a heavy attack. And so you play as not just Link, but there's like 9 to 16 different characters in this game that you can unlock and play as. You can play as Zelda, you can play as Sheik, you can play as this new girl, you can play as, I don't want to even go into it because, I feel like they showed a lot of the stuff at E3, but if people haven't played this, Zelda fans who have been saving yourself, I feel like you're really in for a treat when you play this. But so some of the characters like Link has attacks that start out as X and then Y. So Y is your heavy attack. It does a spin attack. So X and then Y does one combo. Your other combo is XXY, XXXY,
right,
or XXXXY. And in some cases, some characters even have XXXXXY attacks. 5 X's and then Y.
Yeah.
And then so for Link, when you hit that Y button, you can hold down the Y button when you get to Y, and it'll charge up a spinning attack, like Link does in like Link to the Past or whatever, right? And when you get done with that combo, then you can use that attack to do yet another attack. Well, what I'm trying to get at here is that when you're fighting the large groups of generally just completely
fodder.
Yeah, they're not threatening at all. There's these just garbage enemies, right? It becomes very repetitive. You want to go XXXY. That does a big spin attack that'll kill everybody around you. XXXY. It's another big spin attack. Because part of I feel like I'm jumping all over the place here, but part of what you do in this game is you're presented with a large field, and you start on one side of the field with your allied army, and there are keeps and there are these outposts, right? And when you capture a keep, that keep will spawn your army heading towards the enemy army keeps. And when the enemy captures it, it'll spawn enemy army heading towards your army keeps. For the most part, those keeps can take care of themselves unless hero units from the other side, which are the only thing in the game that's challenging, will come in and fuck them all up, right? So when you're trying to capture a keep, and it's red, it's an enemy keep, you have to kill enough fodder enemies to make this meter go all the way down, and then you have to kill the keep boss to switch it, right? But the thing is that when you're trying to just kill as many people as possible, it gets very repetitive because you're just looking for a big group, and then you wade into them and you do this big spin attack, and then you kill them all, and then you find the next group and you wade into them and you do that. And the problem that I have with it is that it's repetitive and a little bit monotonous, but it's not so monotonous that you can kind of play it on autopilot because of all the other things that they've added into the game. So you do have to pay attention because on these maps, they've added in a shitload of awesome things that happen. So there'll be like a map that's on a mountain, right, where there's guys rolling boulders at your keep, and if these keeps get captured, you have to go uncapture them to get boulders. Or there'll be these golden skullantulas that spawn on each map, and you have to kill them to get these puzzle pieces to upgrade your guys. Or it'll be like, this hero's in trouble because you'll be fighting with other heroes on the map.
Yeah.
So you have to go rescue them, and if they die, then it's game over. So there's enough stuff on there that it requires your attention, and all that stuff, once again, is top-notch. The problem is that it's just killing huge amounts of guys that is not top-notch. Like I played the game on hard a little bit, and it was fine on hard until I got to some of the bosses where I needed to be more upgraded, so I had to set it back to normal. But it's a weird dichotomy. Like, I really feel like the Dynasty Warriors formula has gained immensely from Nintendo looking over their shoulder and saying, here's all this classic music. Here's all this classic art. Here's a classic story that gamers just fucking love. There is an incredibly large upgrade system in here where you craft these badges out of things that you get off of the various elite units that will let you upgrade your characters, let them have harder attacks or whatever.
There's a surprising amount going on here.
There's a lot of it going on. And so there's some upgrades that require boss drops. You'll have to go fight the same boss over and over again to get another drop off of them. And that's all great. Even the boss fights are great. The boss fights harken back to Zelda because you have, in addition to your sword, and I should have said this earlier, in addition to your sword, you also have a little meter that fills up that's a special meter that lets you hit a button and you basically do this big attack that hits a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And then you also have sub-weapons, which, in my opinion, if there's one of the things that I would like to knock on this game outside of just the general Dynasty Warriors combat, it's the fact that you have a sub-weapon, and it's bombs, hookshot, arrows, that shit. Yeah. And it's all mapped to what was essentially be the R button, the R1 button on most controllers. On the Wii U, it's the R button.
Yeah.
And to switch between those, you have to hit the D-pad left and right, and that'll switch between the different stuff you have in your inventory. That fact that menu comes up, it's like it brings up a menu in the middle of the screen, and it's a little bit slow to move between them. Mean that I didn't use those sub-weapons very much because my attacks were better than them.
Right.
But there are certain bosses that require you to use certain sub-weapons in certain ways to beat them. So as you go on, you collect the different characters, and you can upgrade them. You collect drops, and there's even there's a whole system where you have weapons that have rupee plus on them as an attribute to the weapon, right? And that means that enemies drop more rupees. And then you can actually get weapons from enemies that have a higher attack, but they don't have anything in that slot. So then you can take that other weapon and you can slot those things between them. There's some weapons that require that you kill 4,000 enemies to unlock whatever the special thing on this weapon is. It's sealed, and once you hit enough of them. All this stuff, absolutely fantastic. Wonderful.
But at its core,
still Dynasty Warriors.
Still Dynasty
I'm
Warriors
so
combat.
conflicted because I didn't expect to like this game as much as I did.
Yeah.
And as I was playing it, I really liked it. And every time that a fan service moment would happen, a boss from the series would show up, and I'd just be like, holy shit. Or there'd be a story twist, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is incredible, right? That stuff was just top of their game, Nintendo pushing all those Nintendo buttons, right?
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I had to run between this keep and fight a bunch of guys in between. And that kind of dragged it down. I keep harping on that, so I'm going to stop now because I feel like everybody who's listening has probably gotten the point. The other thing that was a little bit off-putting to me was, okay, so they did a really good job taking enemies like the Dark Nuts or the Poes from the Zelda series and making them look very nice. Like, you've seen the art style for Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah.
It's very realistic. I think that was what we were all thinking of when Twilight Princess came out, was something a little bit more like that, right? Yeah. But it's all kind of realistic. They're wearing chainmail, the weapons and stuff are very well put together. But I don't know why, and I don't know why this made me laugh, but then the skeletons come out, and all of the skeletons are these little 3-foot tall giant cartoon head skeletons.
Of course.
And I'm like, you've got a mummy here, right? That's got bloody bandages and rotten stuff on it. But these skeletons are the most ineffectual looking skeletons I've ever seen. Now, before we get done here, we got a few more minutes. In addition to the campaign mode, which once you beat the campaign mode, you can even go back through and play each one of the missions on hard, and it unlocks more characters, and there's more of these puzzle pieces that you can get. You need to go back through it a few times for different crafting. In addition to that mode, though, there's also free mode, which basically lets you take any mission And the thing that needs to be said about these next two modes is that, like, Link, right?
Yeah.
Link is Link through all the modes. So in free mode, Link is level 30 and he's got this Master Sword and he's got all these things, right? And if you go into free mode and you grind a little bit to get some upgrade material, then you go back to story mode, all that stuff just transfers back and forth.
Cool. Okay.
So there's not a separate upgrade path for each one. They're all the same game. You have free mode where you can go back into any of the missions that you've already played and you play them again, which is nice just to get materials. But then, and I didn't see this one coming at all, there's adventure mode where you open up the game and you see a giant grid that is like the 8-bit original Legend of Zelda map.
Yeah.
Divided into a grid with these little individual sections. And each individual section is a fight. And each one of those fights, though, has, like, if you use this particular character and you get gold in this fight, you get a heart piece out of this. Or there'll be areas where it's like, if you beat this, you get a candle or a bomb or something like that. But then there are levels where you go into this level and it says there's a secret in this level. You have to search for it. And when you do that, what happens is it actually opens up the map like you're playing original Legend of Zelda. And you have to pick whether you want candle, bomb, or there's a bunch of other things that you can get. And you have to find, like, oh, there's a bunch of trees here. And there'll be, like, very subtle markers sometimes about which tree you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you go up to that tree, and then you hit the candle, the one-use candle, right? And it torches that tree, unlocks a second secret inside of the map that you can get later on. Really in-depth, right?
That's kind of neat.
Huge map. Barely even touched it. I played the campaign for like 12 hours. This fucking thing looks like it's like 5 campaigns, like another 40 hours worth of video game right there.
Damn.
And they actually do a really good job of changing up the like the maps are pretty much the same maps, at least from what I saw. The maps are the same maps that you see in the single player, but they have different objectives. So it's not like get all the keeps. Like I got to one that was like, we put 2 big bosses in this map. You got to go beat the 2 bosses in order to beat the map. Or there'll be sub-objectives like you have to capture this one area and hold it, or you have to kill 300 enemies in 5 minutes in order to get a gold medal, right? Huge amount of replay content. Also, when I beat the game, there was about 5 or 6 characters, totally not locked, couldn't use them, other characters from the game. Some of them are DLC, and that's one other thing that I want to hammer on. I think this might be the first time. I don't know if they've done it before, but this is the first time I've played a Nintendo game where they've got at least, I think, 2 DLC characters, and they advertise on the front page of the game, hey, go buy these outfits for Link and Zelda from our store for real money. But that smacks to me more of the Dynasty Warriors developers than it does of Nintendo. Nintendo doesn't normally do that. But when you beat the game, there's still a whole bunch of characters to unlock. None of the characters are anywhere close to maximum level. Like the Master Sword, right? So you get the Master... Spoilers for Zelda, right? There's a Master Sword.
What?
To unlock... So the Master Sword actually has this big damage unlock on it, and this will tell you the amount of time that you're expected to put into this game. In order to unlock the damage increase for the Master Sword, you have to collect every unique weapon from the entire video game and then kill 25,000 enemies with the Master Sword in order to unlock that.
That's like a lot. That's a big number.
I'm going to tell you right now that if you're in any way, shape, or form a fan of Zelda, and unless you know already that you just hate Dynasty Warriors like with a fiery passion, this game is totally worth it. Like, it's absolutely worth it. You can play the entire game on the Wii U pad. You can load it up and just sit on your couch and play the whole thing directly on the pad. You don't need to even use it. I played it with the controller. It never once asked me to dick around with the Wii U pad, and that was great because I didn't like to do that. It just felt like a third-person action game. And like I said, all that stuff is great. There's also a gallery mode. There's a soundtrack mode where you can unlock the soundtracks, listen to them. Just a metric crap ton of content. And I can't stress enough how much this is a Zelda game, the likes of which I've never seen before. And I think it's such a step in the right direction for Nintendo because it's something different. It's not just go to the temple and do this, go to the temple, do this, go to the temple and do this. Like, to me, this game has more in common with last year's Zelda game on the 3DS in the way that it knows there are Zelda games and is trying to give you, the player who loves Zelda, something that's going to make you go, oh my god, look at the thing!
Total fan service.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, at the end of the day, I think I'm going to give this, I think I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you that, like, it was weird how there were just points when I was playing the game where I didn't want to be playing that game. Like, it's hard to describe. Or I wish that they had upped the ante a little bit on how hard the enemies hit.
Yeah.
Or that they were more aggressive. I know there is a hard mode, but even on hard mode, your characters are so powerful that it really is difficult to get taken out by the standard enemies. And it just means that half the time you're running through these armies and they become worthless.
Yeah.
Like, you don't give a shit about the armies. You give a shit about the elites and the bosses, and that's it. So, yeah. But if you're a Zelda fan, and I'm not the biggest, I like Zelda, but I'm not the biggest fan of Zelda.
You've said a lot of bad things about Zelda in the past, Jeff.
I've expressed myself.
Yep.
But if you're a Zelda fan, and especially if you have a Wii U, this is a no-brainer. I figured, go out and pick this up.
Some people would say you've shit all over Hyrule.
I wouldn't say that.
I would.
You would say that?
Yeah.
I led Link to the Past, one of my favorite games of all time. What are you talking about?
I think that your hatred for Zelda outweighs your love for Link to the Past.
I don't know what the fuck it is
You're
that
a
you were
Zelda
talking.
hater.
Am I a Zelda hater?
I think so.
Zelda's the guy with the green hat, right?
Nope.
That's Zelda, isn't it?
No.
No?